Welcome back to another episode. This is Layla, and today we are discussing how taking naps can help you become a multi-millionaire, but in a way that feels very aligned with who you are and your purpose and your values and your health and your body. And the thing is, because we're within the Aquarian financial revolution, which is one of the largest wealth transfer and power transfer in history that's currently happening, and that's only going to get bigger within the next few years. Because we're within that transition, it is now possible. It has been possible actually for a couple of years, but only a few people have been jumping on that bandwagon. But it has been there has been a new way to earn money, and because people are still, the majority, right, the masses are still operating from that outdated mindset that they have to work hard or work for someone else. This is why there's only a very small percentage of the population that has been doing that. And so I'm going to talk about my perspective first, and then of course I'm going to give more advice, but I want to explain a little bit about my backstory, because for me, the transition was so hard, not because it is actually hard to do it, but because I had to fight my own battles, my own inner demons. And for me, just the idea of like not working and earning money was so hard to comprehend. Like my brain was like, it just does not make sense, And I was raised in an environment where people would work really hard, like really, really hard, like have, multiple jobs and barely even make it. So I was like, and something else in my environment as a kid, I know it sounds weird, but I was not allowed to rest. Like it was like the bare minimum, right? Like obviously I would sleep at night, but I would have to wake up like super early to clean. That was like one thing. Like I had to clean stuff like my room, the kitchen, like as a kid, like I had to do it. So I was not allowed to rest or take naps. On the weekends, I was not allowed to sleep in. Like I had to clean. I know it sounds dumb, but like just bear with me, like that's where I'm coming from. So I was not allowed to rest. And also I started being the family breadwinner when I was 4. So I was put into a modeling agency, and I started making a lot of money, right, from modeling. But obviously that money, like I've never seen that money like ever. So I guess the money was used to like pay bills and stuff like that. But yeah, it was never like put away from me. Like I was just basically like a child slave or something. Like I just had to work, and it was like long hours, right? For a kid, it was like I would do like photo shoots for like 12 hours. Like models know like how long it takes to like do like a full photo shoot. Like it's a full day, and I would miss school to do that. Like anyway, so subconsciously, like my brain always thought that I had to like work really, really hard, right? To like barely even make it, to like have like just enough. And I believe that, when you grow up in a family that are, there's a bunch of like narcissists and enablers. Narcissists do that. They prevent you to rest. Because, and I have this spiritual perspective now, because when you rest, that's actually a state where you're connected to source. All right. So when you're fully rested, you're actually fully aligned with your higher self and what people call God, or, the goddess, source, how, we talk about the divine feminine here. So you're actually in alignment with source or the goddess, because when you're sleeping, your egoic mind is asleep, right? And so it means that your subconscious mind is actually, active. This is why I always promote, listening to subliminals, because this is when your brain is actually absorbing affirmations, not when you just repeat them out loud during the day. And, you know, the subconscious mind controls 95% of our daily actions. So when you're fully aligned with your subconscious mind, and when you've programmed it to whatever you want, whatever reality you want to experience, that's when you get into alignment, enlightenment, however you want to call it, basically. So what's really interesting with narcissistic people is that these people, obviously everybody is connected to source, right? But they feel, because of their own personal trauma, they feel disconnected from source. So they feel the subconscious need to harvest energy, specifically feminine energy, right? Because it's the energy of the cosmos. So when you're surrounded with narcissists do not want you to rest. And everyone who's been in a marriage with a narcissist are gonna, probably tell you that this person probably prevented them from resting. They made them work a lot, or when you want to rest, they just basically find ways to wake you up. So you're constantly in that state of exhaustion. And even I think there was actually a case study on that in prison. I don't remember the case study, but that was actually the goal. They wanted to see how they could control people by having them, in this sleepy state. And so this is actually a way to control someone, to control their ego, to control them, is to have them have the bare minimum of sleep. When you have someone who is not rested, like I said, they feel like they're disconnection, but they're never fully disconnected. But you know what I mean? They feel disconnected, but they're not. But they feel disconnected from source. So this was actually my reality for 20 plus years. And that's why I was basically allowing people to control me. That's what it is, because it was just basically the illusion of me giving them my power away. So when I actually started living in solitude and really reconnecting with myself and reconnecting with nature and, increasing my psychic abilities and, going back home to myself, basically, I noticed that my body felt this need to sleep a lot, and to rest, not oversleep, but just to sleep, sleep 8 to 9 hours every night, and then also have a nap every day for an hour or two. And I remember at first I was shaming myself. I was why am I sleeping that much? This is not normal. And obviously I went through all these medical tests and everything, and my doctor was you're fine, you're good, But this is how deep the subconscious, shaming goes. It's really deep rooted. So that's why I get it when people don't trust this whole digital passive income thing, because I'm I get it. People are so programmed to think that they have to work hard, that when you present them an option that's different, they're no, it has to be a scam, it has to be fake. So I get it. I fully get it. That's why I never, ever in my life, I don't try to convince people. People are on their own unique, different path. And so what I realized during my own, personal journey is that, I would constantly ask myself at the beginning, what would I do if I had millions of dollars right now in my, portfolio, in my bank account, whatever. If I had it now, because that was the practice I did to change my self-concept and identity. Of course, I did it mostly with subliminals, but I would also do these practices as well. I would journal a lot, and I would practice being that person, because I knew that was the dream version of me. I was I'm meant to be abundant. I'm not meant to struggle or anything. And so every time I would ask myself this question, what would I do right now, today, if I had millions of dollars and I was just free, I was liberated, and I would have anything that I wanted, and have these thriving online businesses and these 7 sugar daddies that treat me so well, and what would I do right now? And the answer was always about taking a nap. Like every time I would actually listen to my body and like really listen to my intuition, I would hear, just take a freaking nap, take a nap. And I was like, that felt so counterproductive, because I was like, I remember telling myself, like, there has something that I have to do, like there needs to be an action to take, and like it was so hard for me to comprehend. And like, I guess I like fought myself, I used to fight myself so much, because I was like, no, I have to, create systems and online businesses and whatever, like projects and stuff. And yes, of course you do need a container, but honestly, like it takes like a few hours. Like it doesn't take like it doesn't take a week, it doesn't take months, it's only a few hours. But like once the container is created, like you can actually go and rest, And this is what I did. So I created my courses, my landing pages, my whatever, like my marketing. And then of course I created the daily promotion. I automated everything for like months and months. And that probably took me like 3 days for one business. So it wasn't like anything crazy, but still I could have. Anyway, like I said, I was fighting like sleep. I was fighting taking naps, because I was like, I need to be doing something. But then once I surrendered and I just let go, and I was like, you know what? I created the business. I created the courses. I, channel everything. I automated everything. Like everything is created. So I guess now I can rest. I can actually like sleep, and take a nap. And I kid you not, when I started taking naps, like every time I would wake up from a nap, I would always get these notifications of sales, and I was like, oh my god. And my notifications would only go off when I would either sleep at night or when I would take naps. And this is when I realized, I was like, oh, because when I sleep, I'm not fighting myself, I'm not fighting, like my ego is like finally at rest. Like it's just it's not there, it's not in the way, it's not resisting anything, it's not trying to tell a story of like, oh, it's impossible, you cannot do that, or something bad's gonna happen if it does happen, and blah blah blah. Like, the mental chatter that usually happen, by the way, when we have a lot of childhood trauma. I noticed that people who don't have a lot of childhood trauma, like they just have like a little bit of it, because obviously most people do, but they have like very little trauma, they don't have all of that resistance. They really do not. And I feel like that's one of the main reason I've been creating this podcast, but also sharing all my stories, because I'm like, I was never able to relate to like any spiritual teachers, because I was like, and it's not even a competition of like who got the most trauma. That's not what it is. But I was like, no one has actually been able to explain to me what's actually going on here. Like, why am I fighting myself so much? Why does it take longer for me to get something? And by the way, this used to be like my old mental chatter, like that this usually what used to happen when I would try to manifest something. But yeah, like the irony is that when you want to go from that place of like doubting yourself and doubting your manifestations and doubting like your whole fucking reality, and to go from there to like a place of like divine living and living in abundance and having people like love you, adore you, worship you in all aspects of your life, basically, not just business, not just romantic, like everywhere, and have women and men spoiling you, like that type of life, that soft life, that because I've been on both sides, I know what happens like in the middle. And basically the middle is you releasing or letting go, because I don't like the word releasing, but letting go of resistance. And resistance is simply your ego trying to protect you with these like old stories or things people told you in the past, because it's always trying to protect you. It's trying to prevent any type of like emotional hurt or like even physical danger, right? But it's not rational. It's not logical. And the ego is really bounded by the five senses, and it doesn't understand, goddess and, becoming source yourself and granting your own wishes. Like, it just doesn't get it. It's like, what do you mean you have to work? But when you're sleeping, when you're taking a nap, when you're sleeping at night, it's not there. It's literally not there. And that's why it's so powerful to listen to subliminals at night, especially when they're aligned with what you're trying to create in your life. This is when you get really fast and quick results. And I know it feels weird at first when you're doing it, because it feels like the opposite of what you've been doing your whole life, but that's the whole point. If you want something you've never got, you have to do something you've never done. So like if you've always been in survival mode and thought, how can I survive like next week, because when we're in survival mode, it's a very short-term type of mentality, which is normal, by the way, which is common because your nervous system is in survival mode. So by taking naps, obviously you get into alignment, but also somatic exercises to let go of the trauma within your body is also really powerful. And these exercises are so like small, like they're so subtle, like it's not like some type of like gym workout or like Pilates or something. Like it's about like simply like opening your hips, or like obviously it's hard to like describe it, but yeah, sometimes it's just like gently like rocking yourself. But like if you do it for like 60 seconds, like you're gonna have like a physical reaction where either you're gonna feel lighter, or sometimes you might even cry if some sort of emotion was like stuck within your body. So the approach to becoming a multimillionaire within the Aquarian financial revolution, that was a hard one, is actually very gentle. It's very gentle. It's very compassionate towards yourself. That's the ultimate self-love. And that's why when I see coaches that are like bullying people or like bullying themselves into like, their next evolution, it's actually counterproductive, because they're doing what their parents did to them. That's why they're trying to like normalize this. But that's not how we heal our body. That's not how we transform our bodies. It's actually the opposite. You're going to have like these really like short-term effects. And this is the same, by the way, that goes for like anything, like even like losing weight, like especially if you had like stubborn like fat. You've probably noticed that, of course, if you do anything extreme, like you eat like one meal a day and then you start running every day and do these like cold plunges, like obviously you're going to be losing weight like really quickly, but it's not going to be sustainable, right? And it's going to put your body into a lot of stress. So you're actually going to create other problems, other issue in the long term, and you're actually going to gain back the weight. But if you do it in a compassionate, gentle way, where you actually reduce cortisol in your body with somatic exercises, and you work with, and you start focusing, for example, on balancing your hormones as a woman, you're going to notice that you're going to be losing weight probably just as fast, but it's going to be sustainable, and you're going to put your nervous system in a state of safety. Like, this is huge. This is actually even more important than losing any freaking fat, like to put yourself back into a state of alignment with your soul and to like feel safe within your body, because that's your temple, that's your home, right? Regardless of where you are in the world. So when you start having that kind of approach, this is when you get, long-term sustainable permanent results. And so that's why obviously, especially in business right now, like there are still people like working hard obviously like on their business and like being away from their kids and working like 12 plus hours a day, and obviously they're getting results. They're getting the money, they're getting the financial abundance, the freedom, whatever. But are you really free? Like, are you really free? If you're a slave to your business or to your millions of dollars or your billions of dollars, like, are you actually free? Or or you're just a different type of slave. You just have like a golden chain, basically. That's where, there's a huge difference between the old paradigm and new earth leaders. That's how, we call each other now, where we basically are the people right now that are, either in power or stepping into power. But we're doing it in a way that's aligned with source, that's aligned with nature, and that's very different from what this planet has been experiencing. And that's why it feels very blissful to be on the other side, because like I said, when you get back into this state of feeling at home within yourself, obviously you're healing yourself, but you're also healing your entire lineage. And you're also doing it for the next generations, because they're not going to have to go through this whole like suffering and struggling that your family has been going through, basically. So if you're still here, still listening, well, thank you for listening through the whole thing, but also thank you for being alive right now and here on earth at this moment, because we're a very small group of people, but what we're doing is actually very impactful on society and on the masses, even though we're working in the shadows most of the times. But yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for being amazing. And I'll see you tomorrow for our next episode.